Welcome to the Demand Access Write Your Own Destiny podcast. I'm your host, Will Leviton, and we're here to write our own destiny. Thank you for coming to listen and watch today's episode. Today's episode is going to be special for y'all, so grab your notebooks, your pen and pencil, and listen because we have a successful coach, a successful trainer on today. Let's see who it is.
Welcome to the Demand Access Podcast, Write Your Own Destiny. We're here with episode 2, and today we have a special guest. I mean, this man is amazing. He's helped me out in my journey to become a scholarship player. I'd watch all his videos, check out his YouTube. You know what? We're just going to bring him on, my guy, Coach Coleman Ayers, by any means basketball. We're going to bring it up right now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you for having me on, Mike.
What's up, man?
Much appreciated. Much appreciated.
Thank you, man. Thank you, man. We appreciate you, man. I appreciate you.
Yeah.
It's been a blessing what you've been, how you helped me out. And I know you have some gems. I know you have some things that can help all the viewers and listeners. So let's get right to it.
Yeah.
Give us your background story. Give us your background story.
Yeah, so grew up in Washington, D.C., been playing basketball my whole life. Always was kind of like the short white kid. So obviously that kind of breeds in the basketball world, that kind of breeds like a certain drive that you have to kind of stay on the court, especially in the D.C. area. I don't know for those who are listening, if you guys are familiar with the D.C. area basketball scene, but it's probably, I always argue that it's the toughest place to compete. It has the best hoopers, the best coaches, whatever, in the world, not only the country, but in the world. So playing with a ton of great players, kind of just bred this consistent like fire under me of get better, get better, get better, get better. Started working on my own game a ton, every morning, every night, whatever, that typical story of just grinding. And that kind of that love for the game and love for the process of everything just kind of translated over to teaching others what I learned. So 15 years old, just doing a ton of research, doing a ton of just being on the court, working myself out, working some other guys out here and there, just like training with me, not even really thinking about what I was going to do in the future. Next thing you know, I'm going to like an AAU tournament. I think it's before my junior year, maybe before my senior year. And I was studying some film. Like I said, I was doing a ton of research, whether it's online or reaching out to people or studying film. So I put it in the iMovie, and I just started like chopping it up a little bit just for my own sake. Like, all right, I think it was a Steph Curry step back video. That's kind of like the notorious first video that I ever made. So started off with that, just kind of chopping it up for myself so I can watch it before my game and be like, all right, remember to do this, or before a workout, watch it do this. Next thing you know, I put it up on YouTube because I was like, why the hell not? It actually somehow got some traction. I guess people started sending it to each other, whatever. Started posting a few more, and then just started kind of taking off from there. Gave it kind of the attention to detail name, and started to get some traction. And then kind of concurrently, I was starting to train some guys in the area. I was still like a senior in high school, so teammates would come in like 6 a.m., work out. We would work out together, and some of my friends, I would work them out. Was going to go to college to play basketball, so I had some D2, D3 offers. But I chose to go to University of Miami, where obviously I wouldn't be playing. I was going to walk on there, but some stuff happened with that. Obviously I wasn't going to be playing basketball, but I wanted to focus on teaching basketball and applying that love to teaching, continuing to learn my trade, continue to learn about the human body, how it moves, and specifically basketball, but really just in athletics in general. And I think that's probably the best decision I've ever made, just because I've been so much freed up to really just learn, expand, start to train more and more. So at this point now, the online presence has obviously kind of taken off, which I'm blessed to have that. I have probably 300,000 people. It's hard to quantify total, but 300,000 people worldwide that I can reach. And then I also train high schools, college, pros in the Miami and DC area. So that's kind of where it's gone. It's started definitely with some small beginnings and kind of by accident, but it's taken off, and I'm blessed to have it to where it's at now.
Ah, man, you're right, man. It's definitely a blessing. Like you said, you a lot of times the best things happen on accident. If you just stay your course and
Mm-hmm.
you happen to meet someone that knows someone, and the next thing you know, you're put in a better position. You followed suit, you followed that position, and look at you now. You're popping like one of the best coaches on IG, YouTube. A lot of kids come to you. Nah, man, that's a blessing, man. That's for real.
Yeah, I always say.
So so moving forward.
Oh no! Yeah. Real quick. Just like with the kind of accident stuff happening, I always say like, if you just do what you love, like stuff is just gonna start to kind of unravel. Next thing you know, you're in somewhere that you never really thought. So I mean, that's a great point.
That's right, man. That's right. So you said like by 15, you made the transition from player to more working out, like kind of studying the game more as a coach.
Yeah. So
like what?
Yeah. So I mean, I was still playing at the time, but I was still playing at the time. But that's kind of when I started to see like the teaching side of things. And what made me, so going back to your question, what made me do that was just seeing like, I always say like I played at probably one of the top high schools in the country. At least during that time, it was like a powerhouse. Like we were just talking about Jeff that you played with. We had, I mean, pretty much the whole team is loaded up. So I'm not going to go too deep into that, but pretty much every player on that team was a fantastic basketball player. Everyone that we played against was a great player. Everyone that I've been in the gym with since a youngin' was a great player. And just seeing like those type of dudes, like what makes them so superior on the basketball court, and how can we reverse engineer that to see what qualities they have, and then see how we can coach that or train those things to elevate a normal person like myself game to that level. Also, once I started seeing results, like just training myself, once I started seeing results, it's kind of a cool feeling. Like I'm sure it, just like you're working on your game, you take that next step, like, oh wow, I wasn't able to do this like a couple weeks ago, or like you learn a new move or whatever it may be. You get to that new level, and it's a rush. And then once I started having people that, like, naturally when you're working out so much and when you're doing something, people are going to get on board with it. So people would start to work out just with me, like we were getting workouts together. Next thing you know, they're seeing results, and it's like that was even better of a feeling for me, is being able to take what I'm learning and kind of give it to them and have them see results. And then that's also, you can do it on such a larger scale too. Like it's not just yourself. You're able to give these pointers and this coaching to so many people. So that's kind of what got me started going off on that path, even while I was playing.
So yes, sir. So I want to know what was your driving point? Like what was your motivation? Like playing the sport of basketball. Obviously, it's just it's I love to play the game of basketball. I love getting better. But what was that? Was it your family? What was it that was driving you, motivating you to keep going hard, to keep learning, and to keep doing what you were doing?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, a lot of it just stemming from I didn't want to stop playing basketball, and like I said, like I was always kind of counted out, not in the sense of like, well, I mean, yeah, in the sense of like shorter, unathletic, whatever, that typical, like most teams have a guy like that where it's like, oh yeah, he's gonna sit on the end of the bench, whatever. And I personally, I have a lot of pride, so I never wanted to be just the guy that was there to be there. Like I wanted to be front and center. I wanted to be the one that had like would jump out on the court and just surprise you. Like personally, it was that love for the game. Like I didn't want to stop playing, and really my only chance was just working my ass off to get to that college level, which is kind of ironic that never happened. But that's kind of like what I was working for the whole time never happened. But that process kind of got me started on where I'm at now, which is the cool part about it. And then also, like I said, I'm a very prideful person. So like, if I told my family like, look, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna play college basketball, whatever, if I told my friends that, like, I'm the type of person that once I tell you something, I'm gonna do it by any means, like regardless. And that's
Exactly.
how it got like that.
Exactly.
How it kind of got that
Exactly.
name, because it's like once you start like on that path, it's just if you give up from there, it's like you're gonna have that in the back of your mind for the rest of your life. So that was kind of my thing, and I've always been someone who just enjoys the process of working hard. Like if I'm not doing something productive, sometimes I'll almost, even when I'm supposed to be chilling, sometimes I'll just feel like I'm not being productive or whatever. And that kind of led me to
right.
work myself. But that was kind of the third driving
factor. Definitely, right. You definitely feel weird when when you're used to just going hard all the time, and then even though you have a break, you just feel weird. It's like, nah, you know what? Let me just do this then. Let me just get some work on this end or something like that. Nah, man, definitely. And that prideful thing. And it seems like, because there's two types of pride. There's a pride that can decrease your progress, and there's a pride that can elevate your progress. And it seems like the type of pride that you had, it always elevated your progress. It wasn't more of a pride where you're trying to be cocky about it or whatever. It's more like a pride to like, yo, I'm gonna push myself because I know who I am. I know what I can do. And so I'm gonna just keep going hard, and I'm gonna let the people know by any means.
Yeah, for real. Hit it right on the head.
For real. Let's get to it. Next question. Now, I want to know, starting up in the beginning, was it just you? It was just you, and then now do you have a team with you, or is it just still you and you create your own content?
Right now it's just me. It started off just me, and now like I work with. I mean, I do a lot of my training with my guy Joseph that I met down. He's actually from the DC area too. Came down to Miami, met him. So we do like a lot of clinics. We do a lot of like group workouts, whatever, together. So I do a lot of my in-person coaching with him. And then we also have like some stuff online that we do, like our virtual training programs and stuff. We kind of work together on that. But in terms of by any means, it's all me. I do everything from creating the website to the content to training. So it's kind of like I definitely want to expand out, but right now I'm just going at it by myself, grinding.
That's right, man. Sometimes you got to do it that way. I learned that way myself. I didn't have no one to work out with me. When I was going to URI, I was like, I wanted to be the player, but I had to go work out on myself. I had no one to get my rebounds. And one thing I like about you and me, we're very similar because I ended up training. The reason why I even got close to being on a team was because I was training the players. Like I was just training all the players, and then they started working out with me. And then the coaches were asking who you've been working out with, and they were sticking with me out because I work out. And then we just built a whole bond, and then that's what happened. So like, I definitely it was crazy, man. It was definitely like, it was funny because I would go to the rec center. Like I guess you guys have that University of Miami, the rec center where all the kids play basketball, just the regular non-athletes, right? And I was going there all the time, and the head manager happened to be there, just that on accident, right? The head manager just happened to be there, and I played against him, and I started talking with him, and he was like, you're probably not gonna make the team, this and that, whatever. And he said, you could just be a manager. And I was like, you know what? I could be if I become a manager, I could be on the team. And so, man, it just,
that's dope.
It just got crazy.
That's crazy. That's like that perfect story of just how you continue to elevate and build up to it.
One thing I wish I did what you did and like recorded more stuff. Now, that's one thing, but now I'm recording more stuff, and I'm understanding how to teach people, through videos and how to show them, because it's all about giving back, and you've been giving back. You was helping me, you didn't even realize it. Now look at us now, we're right here, and come to find out you're the teammate. You were a teammate of my best friend Jeff Dowden.
That's crazy.
It's like it's crazy, man. It's actually a blessing, like you said. It is a blessing.
For real, 100%.
So I want to dissect like the kids that we have in this generation now. I mean, now it's like, there's videos all the time of kids working out, there's highlight tapes. Everybody just makes a highlight tape. Anybody can have a highlight tape.
Yeah.
I'm sure you know when we were kids, like if you had a highlight tape, it was because he was like that guy.
Yeah.
Like he was a dog. So what would you say to the kids now? Like how do you get them to kind of shift away from the social media presence and just lock in on their game? Because I just feel like that's what's missing. There's a lot of good players now. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of good players now. Don't get me wrong. But it's just like I don't know. When I was a kid and I saw these other players, they were just more raw. Like they didn't care about social media.
Yeah, I mean that's a good question. I've done a lot of debating just myself on this because like a lot. It's a tough kind of predicament to be in because it's gonna happen. Like basketball has become such a big business. High school basketball has become such a big business that those media outlets that are giving these mixtapes and videos they're gonna be there. And I do think it can be a benefit in some ways. Like guys are getting more exposure now than like you're saying. Like when we were coming up, when we were in high school, even middle school, but especially in high school, like it was tough to get that exposure if you weren't one of those really like top guys. Like if you weren't one of those dogs that's like getting the highlight videos, they're getting all the news exposure, they're in the newspaper or whatever. But now it's a little bit easier, and I think that's one good thing about this, and there's definitely ways to leverage that. But the culture is definitely changing a little bit. Like I've had people that'll hit me up and be like, "Yo, let's work out." I'll be like, "All right, say less. Like let's get in the gym," and then be like, "Can you get a cameraman in there though?" And I'm like, "Dude, I've never worked out with you before. Like the only time that I get people filmed on camera is when I know that they're consistent with me. When they understand that is just a complete secondary thing to the actual work, and when I know that they have that kind of that tunnel vision, so that they're not getting distracted by the stuff that doesn't really matter in the end, which is the video stuff and getting all the clout on social media. So if I know that a dude is locked in, if I know that they understand the end vision, which is whatever goal we're working towards, I'm cool with them posting on social media or whatever. But there are times that it can be excessive, and I think as coaches and trainers and even parents, like we just have to continue to focus on making sure that players in this generation have the right things in their head. Keep them grounded, because I've talked to a lot of coaches about the same topic who have worked with, really some of the top players in high school while they were in high school. And the main thing that they've said is just like continue to humble them while they're in the gym, show them like you're not shit yet, like you're not in the NBA yet, you're not even in college yet for most of these guys. And just continue to humble them and show them like, so for example, if I have a video guy in the gym working with me, most trainers, or I'm not going to say most, but some trainers that I have seen, some coaches that I've seen, will pretty much cater to that player's needs, just throwing oops, getting everything on camera, really catering to catering to their strengths so that everything will look good on camera. Personally, obviously I'm this is a little bit too idealized because I have a different view than most of these players who just want to look good on social media. But personally, if I have a player and I have a video guy in there, a cameraman, I want to show them messing up. Like I want to show those struggles, because in the gym, that's what we're aiming for. We're not aiming for everything to be perfect. And that's kind of one thing to me is like, people are starting to try to be a little bit too perfect at times.
Yes.
A lot of people are doing it the right way, but a lot of people are trying to be too perfect. They're kind of losing that kind of concept of that messing up is good and making mistakes is good in the gym, because that's how we're going to get better. And that's another thing that I've really seen a trend towards with such a change in the kind of social culture of basketball.
Do you think we can change it, like bring it back to what it was before?
I don't know if we can change it. I think we can kind of mitigate some of the negative effects, I would say. Because like I said, there are positive effects, so people are going to see those. And there's a lot of money in it now. Like basketball more than ever is becoming a very, very dirty game at
Ridiculous.
some levels.
Yeah.
So like it's getting very corrupt. There's a lot of there. I mean, the good thing about that is there's room for everyone in the business now. Like whether you may not want to be a player, you may not want to be a coach, you may not want to be a trainer, but there's so many options right now on how to stay close to the game of basketball and enter the field is just it's insane, and that's why I don't see it being reversed. But I do think that as the social media, I guess, becomes normalized, I think players will start to hopefully focus a little bit more on the heart of the game, which is actually getting better, making mistakes, being locked in that gym.
Definitely, man. Because I see it here. A lot of kids, if they want the highlight tape, it'll be a highlight tape of them at practice. It's like it's like, what I'm saying? Like, come on, like let's just focus on grinding. Let's just focus on taking each step. What's important? Because the social media thing, it is important, but then again, it's not because there's no camera on you when you're outside at 12 o'clock in the morning. There's no camera on you when you're outside grinding. When you're inside grinding, there's no camera on you. So I think we just gotta, get back a little bit to just acting as if the cameras aren't there. It's like now we act like we gotta act a certain way because the cameras are here. No, just be yourself and do what you gotta do and be a killer.
Yeah. And one thing I always say is like, if you're really focusing on what's important, like just locking in, staying in the gym, you're gonna get that attention once you get to college, or once you get even some players who are blessed to play professionally. Once you get to that level, that attention is gonna come because that's your job, or that's like you're on that pedestal because you're playing in college or whatever. So it's a little bit of patience there. Like just have patience. Like right now, just focus a little bit more on locking in the gym. It's gonna pay off in the sense that once you get to college, that's when you're going to get that attention that you may be craving right now, or even on the professional level for some.
Still speaking on social media, how important is it to make sure, like for kids who are basketball players who want to pursue high school basketball, college basketball, playing professional, how important is it to maintain your social media and make sure everything's clean, you're not doing anything wrong? Like the emphasis with coaches, like how important is it? Like, do coaches check on you like all the time? Like, can you put some emphasis on that to the viewers?
Yeah, I mean, every player that I train, like my high school guys, especially on Twitter, like I know Twitter has become probably, like, I'm sure players used to get emails and phone calls and stuff, but now it's just like you get the DM on Twitter from a coach. I've seen players get essentially offered through Twitter, and if you're out there retweeting like some stuff that coaches shouldn't be seeing, then that's probably not smart, because obviously they're going to follow you. They see that, and I think coaches say it a lot, but I don't think players realize enough how much character plays into the recruiting process, and they're seeing a lot through social media, for better or for worse. And if you're making your social media not on the highest standard, and not keeping it up, keeping it clean, whatever, coaches will see that, and they're most players that are getting recruited by schools, they come a dime a dozen, and there's like a something that's making them stand out. But it's like we were talking about, basketball is a dirty business these days, and if they see one thing, you're out. It sucks, but like that simple mistake can cause you a scholarship, and it's never worth it to have like a tweet or an Instagram story or even something worse than that, or on a higher scale, and that costs you a scholarship or going to a school that you would like to go to, or a relationship with a coach, like. So I think it's definitely important to hold it to a standard and just be smart. That's all I really say.
Yeah, man, level of professionalism. If you want to be a professional, you gotta act like a professional right now. Yeah. And we can't, some kids, they get lost in it. They start posting stories, and then they're posting, the private stories, and it's just like, man, if you can't post it on your normal story, then you shouldn't have a private story. If you have a private story,
Yeah.
that means you shouldn't be doing what you're supposed to be doing. I mean, that's how I learned it.
Yeah.
You know,
Mm.
so let's move on to like basketball. So how important is attention to detail? Because those are the videos I've seen that you do, like attention to detail.
Yeah.
How important is that, like, to become one of the best players? How important is basically the fundamentals of basketball? Not all the moves, but the fundamentals. Because now it seems like we're getting to like everybody wants to do a lot of moves, but no one's understanding if I come
Yeah.
down the court having a different level of pace and speed, that's gonna get me by my defender as opposed to coming down the court and doing a million moves
Yeah.
and not getting nowhere.
Yeah, so I mean, I always preface this kind of concept or this topic by saying, like, a lot of the top players, a lot of the most elite players that you've seen, at least at the high school level, like everyone has a player that they play with that's like one of the best kids in the area. They barely work out. They just have that natural talent, and
Yeah.
you're like, all right, well, if he can get by and become one of the best players in the area or the country, or make it to D1 college without really working out, pay attention to the fundamentals, the attention to detail, like you're saying, then I can do it. But not everyone has been gifted with that same amount of talent, and to me it's about maximizing your potential and your ceiling, rather than comparing yourself to. It's not a uniform process. Like, it's not proportional. If I put this much work in or this much attention to detail into it, I'm going to be this good. It's not like that. So regardless of who you are, the pros, every pro that I've worked with, that I've talked to, that I've even hooped with, they're on a different level in terms of how they understand the game, how they think, and how they think about the work that they're putting in. You always see, like, I've hardly seen a pro who is just out there bullshitting, doesn't put in work, doesn't take care of their body, at least to some extent. Most of the time, it's really impressive how much they care and how much attention to detail they have throughout their training. So I think as a high school player or a younger player, kind of reaching that potential is only really done through the attention to detail, focusing on the foundations and the most basic techniques, and building up, and really just staying in the gym and doing it the right way. Because if you think about it, those top players who are right now, I guess, like top players in the area, like I was saying, and they're not putting in that work. Imagine how good they could be if they were putting in that work, and really paying attention to detail. So exactly, and a lot of those players you will see will be the ones that become busts, or they go to the college level and then they transfer a couple times, and then they kind of just end up at like a school that you probably wouldn't expect them to. And it sucks to see that a lot of the time, but people really just still see them at the high school level and see that they're not putting in much work, and they're like, all right, well, that's how everyone does it. And it's more to me about maximizing potential, and the only way that's done is through attention to detail, and building up those foundations, and really being in the gym the right way.
So besides going to the gym, obviously all the time to become a better basketball player, would you say like film is one of the most important things to becoming a better basketball player? Because I feel like kids and some of my teammates, when they got to college, it's like they're playing in a game. Right after the game, some of them weren't as hungry to watch the film of the game and the film of their game to dissect. Oh, I did this wrong. I need to do this. And I didn't really see that many people do that. Like, a couple of my teammates did, but those are the ones that were committed. And then the other, I would say 7 or 8, was like, I'm just going to go to practice. Whatever the coach shows me, I'm going to see it, and I'm going to just repeat the same process. Can you talk about how film how important that is, especially understanding at a young age?
Yeah, so I think the higher levels that you look at, the more people or the more players will watch film, and and I think the more actually they'll do it independent from their coaches, because everyone, like, high school, college, they'll bring in a team meeting, watch film, people are dozing off, like it gives you some kind of benefit in terms of like the team concepts. You get called out here and there, but it really takes a full, like, you have to sit down, and always, like, you can do this by yourself 100%. Just sit down and watch your film and just analyze everything, and what you can do better, because when you're in a basketball game, you're not really fully mentally there. Like, you're not thinking about everything consciously. The game moves so fast that you're gonna they're gonna be things open in the game that you don't even see, and unless you go back on film and see where these trends are, or let's say like I'm shooting a pull up and my left foot is like slightly turned outwards, and I'm doing that every time, you're not gonna notice that in a game. When you go back and watch film and you notice that and you realize that that's throwing off your balance and making you fade a little bit to the left, that's when you're going to be able to take that, reevaluate, get in the gym, make that minor fix. Next thing you know, you may be shooting a game winner with that same concept, and you fixed it. And that's where someone who has watched the film, made that simple fix, is going to make that shot or have a better chance of making that shot than someone who has just left those bad habits in. So you can work all you want, you can be in the gym all you want, but if you're really committed, you have to be able to reevaluate your own game. And the only way to do that is you can rely on someone else to do it, but you're never going to see it yourself unless you're like, all right, look, I want to sit down and watch this film. You can get your coach, you can get your trainer to do it, whatever. But just one-on-one, or just you and yourself, sit down, watch film, take notes, and just notice what is going wrong and what's going well, and you can keep taking advantage of the things that are going well. But it's really just helpful to take that step back and understand your game on a wider level, I think.
Yeah, that's right. Because essentially, that's how progress works, and not only in basketball but in life. We learned it in school, but we think basketball or whatever we're trying to do is something separate, and we don't realize how we do one thing is how we do everything. And so, if you're not paying attention in class and trying to study and get better in class, in basketball, you probably say, I could just work out because it's easy. But if you're not studying your game and understanding, you're not really getting anywhere. It's like you're just at the same place that you just started.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted you to put some emphasis on film, because I have a lot of basketball players that are watching this, and I know like film is probably might be the last thing on your list. And that has to be probably top 3, if not number 1 thing on your list before you even go outside and work on your game.
Yeah. Definitely.
Moving on.
100%.
What would you say is the what's the characteristics of a professional basketball player? Man, female or man? Like, what is the skills? What is the characteristics that they have? Like, you've been around a lot, so can you give us some characteristics that they have so these guys can learn, these girls can learn?
I think I'm gonna take it off the basketball court and look at it from a more zoomed out perspective in terms of like the whole person. I think people kind of see the word professional basketball player, see like the idea of a professional basketball player, and look at it as they're just playing basketball on a high level. Like, no, this is a professional basketball player. When you hear the word professional and anything else, it's like, I'm going to be professional dress or professional whatever. It's holding yourself to a certain standard. And professional basketball players, for the most part, are ones who are able to hold themselves up to that standard, not only on the basketball court. Obviously, they're great basketball players, but they're able to be professional in their interactions. Like, I've hardly met professional basketball players who are just complete, like, they don't network with anyone. They don't, build relationships with people. They're always kind of have that understanding. Not always, again. There are some people who just make it there and purely off of talent, but for the most part, they build relationships because they understand that, one, especially not everyone's gonna make the NBA. Period. And
can we tell them that again? Can we tell all the viewers that? Can we tell the viewers that?
Not everyone will make the NBA, and it's a harsh reality, but it's a very, very small chance that a basketball player will make the NBA. Even if you're at the professional level, if you're in the G League, or if you're playing overseas, you still need to be building these relationships. One, because you never know when someone could have an opportunity for you in another country or another league, whatever. Two, it goes back to what you were saying, how you do one thing is how you do everything. And it's just holding yourself up to this standard of like, I'm going to be the best person I can be, not only on the basketball court, but how I interact with people. That's just how I've seen it for the most part. And that also kind of, carries over to nutrition and taking care of your body. And you hear a lot of players who will be like, I didn't really realize how important it is to get in the weight room, take care of my body, eat right until I got to that professional level. And that's because they have other professionals who are teaching them that, and they're leading by example and are building those relationships and being like, look, man, this is what you got to do. And at that point, everything just takes off. You have more longevity, because once your body stops functioning at that same level, you can't make money off this game anymore directly, like playing at least. So there's a clock, and that's another thing that I've seen is that professional players for the most part will realize that and try to extend that clock by eating right, taking care of their body. And then the last thing I'd say is just they're very cerebral. Like every time I work with a pro player versus a high school player, even when they're like a pretty engaged, intelligent high school player, the pro player is so much easier to work with. Like that learning curve, like you tell them something, boom, they pick it up. And you can tell like some of the college guys that I've worked with in the past, that I work with now, like you can tell that they're going to be professionals just by how they learn when I'm working them out, or when they're in a pickup game and I give them a piece of advice, or we're watching film and I give them a piece of advice and like, oh, okay, like I get that. They may ask me a question about it and continue that conversation. Whereas if I tell another guy something or another girl something, they'll just kind of accept me back. Okay, I get it. They don't apply it. Whereas the professional will take it, digest it, and then use that to elevate their game. So it's just a couple qualities that I've really noticed.
And speaking on that, like, can we stress the, asking questions? Because like a lot of people don't want to ask questions. It's kind of hard for them to, why is it you got to do this? Because they don't want to be embarrassed. They don't want to sound like they're dumb. And we don't realize that, hey, man, if you want to be good at something, you have to ask questions.
Yeah. And
if that's what you really want, you have to ask questions. You have to understand it. There's not enough questions being asked now.
No.
It's more, I know this because I've seen him do it. So, you know what? Freak all that. I can do it my way. Like, can we stress the importance of like asking questions, especially with this game of basketball, because there's a lot of questions that have to be answered.
Yeah, and the two things that I like about asking questions, one, it tells me that a player's engaged. Like if they just look at me, give me that blank stare, or even like, okay, I got you. A lot of the time they won't do it because they don't fully understand it. Even if you are fully doing it, sometimes like I would rather have a player understand the concept that I'm telling them and still ask me, just because like it shows me that they're engaged. And then two, it shows me that they are looking for something deeper. Like personally, whenever I learn something, whenever I'm trying to learn something, I'm studying something, whatever, I always try to find some questions about the topic just for the sake of looking deeper into something. So if I tell a player about a technique, I'm not perfect. I'm not going to tell you everything about this. I may forget something. I may not see something that you see. And when you clarify that, or when you search on that deeper level for a question and for something that can be observed even deeper, then not only does that tell me that you're engaged, it also helps you learn better and absorb everything better and understand the game on a deeper level. So questions, huge. And the players that ask questions are the ones that I see the biggest improvements in, at least like most of the time, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. So I always, when I'm training kids here in Rhode Island, I'm always telling them that, the 60 people that make the draft, those 60 guys, yeah, they may have connections, but those 60 guys, they all have something in common. And I tend to notice that they work really hard. Like when I was reading on Buddy Hield when he was in college, that story of Buddy Hield, how he would shoot like 400 shots with the same manager before a game and on off days, like players like that. Let's talk about how in high school, in college, it's very different because in high school, your coach is going to be more on you about, working out, getting better. Because they obviously, high school, the coaches want to win a high school championship. As opposed to college, a college coach would be like, if you're not going to work on your game, sorry, I have these other 14 guys that, that we got just like you. So can we talk more about that right there?
Yeah, I think, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. Everything that's like facts. At least, especially once you get to college, the guys that are putting in more work, or at least more efficient work, are ones that are probably more likely to make it to that next level. But the one thing that I've that I want to emphasize on this topic is just finding people that will push you. And kind of quick story. This literally happened like a couple hours ago. So during this whole thing, I've worked with one player down here in Miami. One of my favorite players to work with, and he's during the quarantine just like pretty much been chilling. And I hadn't been talking to him much, but he's just been sitting on the Xbox or on his PS4 or whatever, pretty much just chilling. Next thing you know, I pair him up with another player who I know is going to work hard. And we've been going at it 3 weeks straight. The dude is more engaged than I've ever seen him before. And he comes to me today, and because he's leaving for college soon, he's like, how do I find someone that's going to push me when I get to college? And he's kind of worried about it. And I'm like, dude, well, one, I'm extremely happy that you're realizing that the importance of finding someone that's going to push you. And two, like, if you find those like-minded individuals and ones that are gonna be able to hold you up to standards that you set for yourself, it's gonna help you take off. Like we can all say like, oh, we'll go to the gym by ourselves at late at night and get shots up. That's great. But it's a lot better when you have someone like, yo, let's go to the gym. And then you're like, I don't really feel like it. It's like, no, we're getting up. We're going to go to the gym right now. That's going to be a lot more productive. And there's going to be a lot more longevity in that than you just trying to be self-motivated. So find someone that's kind of a like-minded person, like-minded player, willing to push you, and that you're willing to push them. And I think that's just going to come down to, reaching out to people, because he was like, yo, like, how do I find something like that? And I'm just like, yo, just hit people up, be like, let's go work out. He's like, I feel like I'm gonna get rejected a lot. People are gonna be like, nah, like, and also at that college level, like, if you ask someone to go to the gym and go work out, and you're pushing someone and they don't want to be pushed, they probably shouldn't be at that level anyways. Like, most people who have made it to a higher level in college will be willing. They just need that push sometimes. They need that push to get off the Xbox sometimes and get in the gym, or be like, yo, let's watch film like 2 days a week just to start. And that extra push that you have from other people is huge. And if you don't have that, sometimes you can kind of get caught up. Even if you're a motivated person, sometimes you can kind of get caught up in the whole thing of, slacking off. And just find people that are going to push you and just kind of roll with that.
And removing that pride too, right? Because again, that it seems like pride gets away of a lot of basketball players, because basketball and pride they go hand in hand. It's like, some people are cocky and some people, I'm not gonna ask them that. I worry about myself. And so how would you, like you said, this kid's about to go to college, right? How do you switch the mentality to understand that, hey, when you go to college, this is more, it's about you, but it's really more about the team and what you can do to help the team. Because in high school, if you're the best player on the team, it's about you. Unless you go to powerhouse schools and you're playing against other powerhouse schools are basically like colleges, but
Yeah.
most of the part, some of the top players, they come from a school where they're just the best player on the team. And so
Yeah.
how do you like form that mindset, shift that mentality that, hey, I'm going to college, it's not going to be about me as much as I want it to be?
Yeah, I think you have to put it in perspective to them. If you're having, well, one, have that conversation. If you're a coach, trainer,
Mm-hmm.
if you're a teammate of someone and they've been talking about, the transition to college, have that conversation with them of what's going to change. And the thing that I always say is take the best players from around the area, whatever area you may be in, and put them together on one team. How many shots do you think you would get on that team? Because that's exactly how college is going to be. It's not going to be like high school where you're just the best guy on the team and you're getting by because you take a bunch of shots and because you have such a long leash to do whatever. You're going to be kind of like entered into that system where you have to build yourself up. And I think it like I was talking about earlier, just humbling players, humbling yourself. And once you get a player to realize that they're going to have to go through all these struggles again. I mean, some of them have been the best player on the team since freshman year of high school. And that's a tough case because they've never had to go through that unless they're going to walk into a school and be the best player. But even then, that's rarely going to happen. So understanding, like, look, you're going to have some struggles. Don't just struggle and then transfer out like a lot of guys do these days. Like, push through it.
It's going crazy.
You have to. No, man. It's like I could get on a whole rant about that, but push through it. Like understand that, and give them examples too. Like Buddy Hield, like you just mentioned him earlier. Dude worked himself up from a guy who I don't know his stats like freshman, sophomore year, but he worked himself up every year. It was like a consistent improvement. There's so many examples of these guys who came in college, they averaged like 4 points a game. I mean, even at the pro level, look at Kobe. Like all these guys it's such a rare case when someone just steps into a position on a team and averages 20 points a game that players have to understand that the way basketball works and the way the world works is you're not always going to have that long leash, and you're not always going to have that just ability to step in and average 20 shots a game. Like you're going to have to take that progression. You're going to have to switch your mindset. I think having that conversation with players is the biggest thing, rather than just be like, oh man, you're going to go kill it next year. Like, yeah, you might kill it next year, but you killing it, maybe you averaging 4 points a game, locking up on defense and working for playing time. So that conversation, that dialogue is really key.
And speaking on transferring, man, listen, there's a lot of transfers going around. Another conversation, like, how do you explain to them that sometimes transferring is good? I get it. Maybe you went to the wrong school, things aren't working out. But it seems like people don't want to go through that struggle of, I just went on this team, I'm the seventh man. I'm not going to, instead of working my way up to be in the starting rotation or even playing a lot of minutes, I'm going to sulk and be upset and then just transfer the next year because he doesn't see what I can do. Like, how do you talk to someone like that? How do you get them to understand, like it's a grind. You have to push yourself and you have to aim to be in that starting spot.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a tough case because I've never really successfully dealt with someone who's been in this scenario. But one, I would say a lot of this is like social media related. Not a lot of, I mean, shit. It might be because transfer portal is as concentrated as it's ever been right around the time where social media is becoming really prevalent. And I think it's because players don't get that same level of love when you're averaging 4 points a game as a freshman. And back in the day, I mean, obviously I'm still young, so I can't speak on this directly, but my thoughts would be like, players understand like you're gonna have to work your way up, and they're not seeing like these top guys so readily scrolling down social media and seeing freshmen averaging 20 points a game. Like that's a rare case, but nowadays it's not as rare. I mean, it probably is as rare, but you're just seeing it more, on your timeline on Instagram or whatever. And I think the important thing to help them understand is like you have time. Like 4 years, a lot can change in 4 years. And football is a little bit different. And I'm bringing up football because I have a lot of friends. I don't train any football players, but I have a lot of friends and people that I went to school with who they're football recruits and they redshirt a year. They barely play 1 year, barely play the next year, and by their junior year they're kind of playing. Senior year they kill it and they're an NFL prospect. And that's because I think that's partly because the NCAA, you're allowed to go one and done. So even if you're a mid-major guy and you're seeing guys like Zion Williamson or any of these players who are at these blue blood schools or the top schools, you're seeing like, oh, they're the same age as me and they're going to the NBA. I'm at a mid-major school averaging 4 points a game. You just have to understand that you're the norm, not them. And the more work you can put in, the more work you put in, and the more you trust that process. Because a lot of guys just check out of the process early. Like they get in, they're expecting big minutes. Maybe coaches also probably have something to do with this, where they're promising more than they can deliver in terms of like a player's role. But you got to understand that you don't have the right to play a ton your freshman year. And once you understand that and realize that like just you can stay locked in and really continue to elevate every year, I think that's the key right there.
Definitely, man. That's from everyone. That's from a coach's perspective, When I talk about, I'm talking from a player's perspective because I always wanted to get a scholarship. I worked all my life, but I ended up getting it my senior year of college basketball. So, I'm seeing a lot of transfers. I see people who are younger, seeing all these players transfer, like, grind it out, go through it, go through the paint, challenge yourself, because that's an even bigger challenge. Like, going to a school where, you don't get the minutes that you wanted, and you work, and then you finally get all that you deserve. That's a better feeling. But I get it. Sometimes you might have to leave, and sometimes there are problems. But most of the time, it's not really like that. I mean, I don't know how many kids that go into a college and they're starting problems with the coach. Like, it's rarely like that.
And if they have problems with the coach, then it may be they're inflicting those problems because they're frustrated. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
You gotta take a look at it you gotta take a look in the mirror first before you blame anyone else.
Exactly. So if I'm, a 10-year-old kid, I'm watching your videos. Like, if you're a 10-year-old kid, if you could start over your 10-year-old kid.
Yeah.
How would you go into the process of getting better without a coach? Like, how would you do it? Step-by-step process. How would you do it?
Yeah, so I think number one is just do your research, get educated, because a lot of players look for the simple like fix, like what drills are going to help me, what exercises are going to help me. They kind of look at it from a little bit too simplistic of a level, which is understandable because if you're a young kid, if you're young and like you're not going to be sitting like educating yourself on everything that I educate myself on. So, but with that being said, understand the concepts more than like drills you should do or exercise you should do or whatever, so that you can create your own workouts and you can do things self-sufficiently rather than having to have a coach, because not everyone's going to have access to a coach. And that's one of the reasons I do what I do, is because I want to bring that top level of training, that pro level training to everyone. But you guys have players have responsibility to educate yourself so this information will become more digestible, because I can only put it on like there's a certain level that if I go any more simple than that, you're not getting kind of the full information. And the more that you can understand concepts, like understand how to evaluate yourself as a player, how to look at yourself and then decide what you need to work on, how you can come up with drills on your own rather than searching up on YouTube drills for so and so, because everyone's different. The more you can think critically about stuff, and that all just comes with educating yourself, um, talking to people, asking questions, understanding how basketball works, and that's partly why my training became on myself became so effective. Is and why I saw so many benefits in my own game and other people's game, but it's because I would educate myself before I applied anything, rather than being like, what drill should I do to become the best basketball player I can? Because you're different than every other basketball player on the planet, and if you are looking for a one size fits all kind of thing, you may get it, but it's not going to be the right thing. Everything has to be specific, and the only way to do that is to be educated, at least to a certain extent, kind of baseline level of understanding, and then being able to think critically and apply it yourself.
So what would you say, like, so now you're growing up, you're around 18, you're going to go to college. Like, can you tell the viewers what the college coaches are looking for in a college basketball player? Like, what are they looking for? Because I think we sometimes lose sight of the things that they're really looking for, on the things that they really just don't care about.
Yeah. So I think there's definitely kind of a baseline or a prerequisite level of just talent. Like a lot of there's always like the saying, I say it myself too, it's like talent really is secondary to like character or whatever. But if you don't have that talent, you're not going to get recruited in the first place. But if you have that talent, let's say you've been working your ass off, you built yourself up, and you're able to compete. And point being, just to kind of save like a longer rant, is don't be realistic and don't try to get recruited by schools that you're not going to have the level of talent to get to. And that's a kind of a look in the mirror, like, all right, I'm a mid-major player. I probably shouldn't be focusing on how to get recruited by Coach K. So I understand that you're probably going to end up somewhere in your talent level. But aside from that, you have to do the little things very well. And it's kind of cliche, but it's cliche for a reason. Like, there are so many players out there at every AAU tournament. The coaches are sitting around the gym, and there are so many players in front of their eyes that you have to understand what's going to differentiate you. And a lot of these things will be the little things. Like if you come up and size someone up and just cook someone, that's going to get their eye. But there's kind of that gray area between getting a coach's their attention and then actually converting that into an offer. So, and the coaches that I've talked to, whether it's high school coaches who have great connections with college coaches, or college coaches themselves, or players that have been through the recruiting process, it's like leadership, character, and having those professional qualities that I've talked about. So being vocal on the court, holding yourself to a high standard in terms of your demeanor, not always like if you have a turnover and just like look at the ground, like hit yourself. Because in college, if you don't see the top college players doing that, you don't see them having a turnover, committing a turnover, and just like sulking and getting mad at themselves. No, they may give like a quick clap, look at the coach for a little bit because they're kind of scared, and then just get back on defense and focusing on that next possession. You know what I'm saying? Like, the coaches are looking for that while they're recruiting you. That's not something that they're gonna want to have to train you to do when they come in. So little things, demeanor, definitely defense. I would say like all this is provided that you have some offensive skill set, but defense is like, that's one thing that's if you and another player are competing for an offer, the better defender is likely going to win. If all things held constant, because defense at the next level is such an emphasis, at least for most programs. So really all the little things that ironically we don't train for. Even myself, like I probably don't train my players to be better defenders enough, and because it's not the glamorous stuff, but those are the things that colleges are looking for, and the quicker you kind of understand that, where you can add those and train yourself to allow coaches to see that.
Yeah, I think with defense too, I do see that a lot. A lot of workouts, there's not really as much defense involved. But one thing I've learned, because I'm truly a defender, like I love to play defense.
Yeah.
I think that was another reason. That was another reason why I was, I was able to be on the team, because I was willing to play the starting point guard full court. That's what I wanted to do. Defense, I've learned that defense is more about, your pride. Like, do you want to? It's like it's inside. It's not something you could really teach. You can't really. You could learn steps to, close out and stuff. But when it comes down to it, defense is really about what's inside. Like, do you not want that person to score? How hard are you going to work? Because that's really what it is. And kids forget that. Like, you think it's just about scoring, the passing, like taking a charge. I realized taking a charge is one of the best things to do. It's like, that's probably one of my favorite plays in basketball. It's not even like hitting a three, like taking a charge on someone and know we're gonna get the ball back. Yeah, like that's a great feeling. We kind of lose, we kind of lost sight on like how important defense is. Because if you can play defense on anybody, you can play anywhere. You just gotta build your offensive skills. Yeah, definitely.
100%.
So, if you had what are some lessons in this journey that you're in right now? What are some lessons that you can say, like your life lessons that you learned that you can give to the viewers and the listeners?
Yeah, so I've been doing a lot of thinking about this, because everyone hasn't been able to have their crazy life as much. We've had a lot of time in the crib, so one thing especially right now is patience. Understand that in today's society where everything is moving 1,000 miles per hour, it's gonna seem like everything should be more accelerated than it is, and understand that we have time, and if we don't get to a spot that we want to get to, there may be something else coming behind that is even better. And pretty much this is how the main example I can use in my own life is just I put in all that work to play college basketball, literally put tens of thousands of hours into it. That was my one dream as a kid, play college basketball. Next thing you know, it's not really the ideal situation for me. I was not happy about that. I was devastated for a little bit. Next thing you know, I guess 3 years later, I'm looking back on it and thinking that was the best thing that ever could have happened to me. And that process that I spent, working towards that goal, transferred even better to something else. So if you're working on something right now and you don't get there, or if you don't get there in time and it takes longer than you expect, that could be a blessing in disguise, just because one, you could take even longer to know or to learn the things that you need to learn to really succeed in that goal or position or whatever you're aiming for. And two, because sometimes what you have in mind is not the best goal for, or not the best position for you. And the quote, everything happens for a reason. I always kind of struggle with that, because I feel like some things don't happen for a reason. Like some things are just not fair. So we have why are some things there's a lot of messed up stuff going on in the world, and some of these things don't happen for a reason. But I do believe there's a lot of value in understanding that if you don't get that first choice of what you want to do, or if you don't reach that goal and you've given everything to it, understand that that's not the end all be all, and something coming behind that may be, and is likely to be, probably in many cases, the better outcome in the long run. And just continue to have patience. If you don't reach a goal, reach that next goal. If you don't get to a certain spot, get to that next spot, and just continue to move on. Take this is probably one of my favorite quotes ever. Everyone's got a plan till they get punched in the mouth. And you're going to get punched in the mouth, and you've got to reevaluate and understand that you have time to get to where you want to be. And That's probably the main lesson that I can really attest to, and that I really like talking about with whether it's a basketball player or whatever your profession may be. That's kind of the main thing that I've really been focusing on lately.
Yeah, man. Thank you for that, man. Thank you for real, because you are at, you're at the highest point right now. You're gonna go even higher, and to hear that for someone like you, for people who like me and other kids and other males, other females, other people who are listening, I know they're struggling right now. They feel like they're down, they're doubting themselves, they don't understand, it's not working, they're getting punched in the mouth, they're not reevaluating. But that right there, reevaluating yourself and just moving on to the next goal, man. Thank you. Thank you for real. Thank you for being on the show. Thank you for giving us your perspective as a trainer and a coach, man. Let them know, all your handles, what to follow you on, what to pay attention to. Let them know. Let the viewers know right now.
Definitely. Well, first, thank you, man, for having me. Probably one of the, if not my most favorite podcasts I've been on. So appreciate the opportunity. Definitely get another round in, another podcast coming up. Whenever you'd like to have me back on, whenever
I'm saying.
But
yes, sir. For sure.
But in terms of where you can find me, Instagram, By Any Means Basketball. You can follow my personal page at Coleman Harris. The YouTube is By Any Means Basketball, same thing. Twitter, pretty much, you can just search up By Any Means Basketball. And then just stay tuned. I got a lot coming, especially once this coronavirus stuff ends. I got a lot, set up. Yeah. Hopefully, we're actually this summer I was supposed to go around a couple different cities in the U.S. and then also a couple internationally. Just run some camps.
But, come to Providence.
Oh, hell yeah. I would love to.
Come to Providence, man.
I would love to. I got to.
Come to Providence.
I will, for sure. I'll be up there, and whenever this stuff ends, I'll be, traveling around, hopefully, try to get some stuff done in different places so I can really cast that net and work with as many people as possible. But until then, keep just following. I'm going to keep putting out as much as I can to help you guys, and to, I always say, like, to kind of end with this, it's like, I can never remember the exact quote, but like when you feed a man a fish, he eats for one day. When you teach a man to fish, he eats for his life. And that's kind of what I try to do, is just teach people how to not fish. Obviously, that would be definitely a different perspective on the By Any Means Basketball stuff, but teaching them how to understand the game of basketball, how to get better, how to train themselves and others, so that I don't have to be there in front of you to train you, and that you can be there on your own, still get that same level of work in. So follow for that. Other than that, just stay tuned, and I appreciate you, man. Once again, much love.
Anytime, man. We're gonna listen, man. We're gonna get you more on some episodes.
Hell yeah.
That's got to do a collab for sure, man. Thank you again. God bless you, bro. This is By Any Means Basketball, everyone. Get it by any means,
Yes, sir.
So thank you again.
Yes, sir.
God bless you. The Man Access Retro Destiny X By Any Means Basketball. Have a great day. I'm gonna hit you up. Thank you, man. Again. All love, brother.
All right, bro. Be safe.
You too.